Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you level up or pivot in their careers. As 2022 is nearing to a close, I'm sure you've been getting all of the emails. I know I have as well, all about goal setting. And it can be a really intimidating, scary time, New Year's resolutions. It can be a very pressure filled time period of like, what are you going to do next? I will say, if you're feeling the pressure, let it wait. It can wait. You don't need to sit down and start goal setting tomorrow. But what I did want to share with you on both this week's podcast as well as next week's podcast is a couple of episodes, key tricks, advice on how to really power up 2023. And it all starts with a vision. One of my favorite quotes is by Hugh MacLeod, and he says, "Nobody can tell you if what you're doing is good, meaningful, or worthwhile. The more compelling the path, the more lonely it is." Most of our artistic creative journeys feel like this. We don't know if the goals we set, we don't know if the vision we set for our future is going to pay off. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be good. But being brave enough to set a vision for your future is a radical act. It's sticking a flag in the sand and saying to the world and to yourself, hey, this is what I want. This is where I want to go. This is where I want to end up. You can either help me on my quest or let me go. There is power in putting what you want out into the world. You might not receive it back in kind. It's not owed to you. But there is a sort of magic that can happen when you declare to the world, hey, this is what I want. There is a freedom in allowing yourself to ask. For years, I was actually pretty terrified of setting a vision for my future. I've mentioned it on this podcast, but I'm a teenage cancer survivor. So when I was 17, diagnosed with cancer. And I would say for about 5 years after that experience, so through college, through the beginning of my adulthood, moving to Chicago, I couldn't imagine years into the future. I was too scared to even imagine a year into the future because I was so terrified of it being taken away from me. But what started to happen, and I started realizing this around 23, 24, was I didn't really know where I was going. Sure, I had moved to this big city. I was making a lot of really big choices. I was figuring out how to be an adult, but I felt like I was just treading water or swimming across the lake, but had no idea where I wanted to go. And I vividly remember talking to my therapist about this, and I was like, I think I need to work through this fear. I don't think I can be afraid of my future anymore. I think I need to spend some time really asking myself what I want long term. Oof, and that's a terrifying subject. Now I know vision setting is one of the best tools I have in my toolkit in this journey that we like to call life. So, part one of this two-part series on goal setting is going to be talking about vision. Every goal I now set comes from a future vision. And there is a little bit of a difference between the two. And I'll walk you through that in the next couple of episodes. So let's start with vision. Think of a vision like a storybook. Goals are the individual chapters or steps in the journey. Visions are important because they serve as your guiding compass. They help you know what goals to set, what tasks to prioritize in your day to day, and subconsciously guide you toward making strategic decisions in your life. Without a vision, you don't know where you're going. I stumbled on this really awesome quote the other day, and it kind of just made me laugh. It's from Seneca, who was an ancient Roman philosopher. And he says, "To the person who does not know where he wants to go, there is no favorable wind." Yep. If you don't know where you want to go, I mean, wind is great. It's going to take you somewhere, but it's hard to know whether it's favorable or not, or whether it's taking you in the direction you want to be. You are essentially a stranded ship in the middle of the ocean, just drifting, going where the wind decides to take you. I will make one caveat here. If you have recently had a major life upheaval in your life and are mourning a big loss or change, this could be something you chose, this can be something that was forced upon you. This is not the time to create a vision. I want you to give yourself some time and space to grieve for the person you once were and be okay with not knowing what is happening in this moment. If the idea of setting a vision is terrifying you, that means there's some other work that you need to do before you jump into this process. You'll know it's time to set a vision when you start to have the energy and excitement around dreaming about your future again. When the idea of something 6 months from now, a year from now starts lighting you up, the possibility gives you energy, that's the time to create a vision. So, this podcast episode, we're going to dive into the 5 keys to vision creation. Finding that right balance in your career is incredibly difficult as a creative. If you are lacking time, energy, or money to do the thing that you love, it might be time to figure out what needs to change. If you have no idea where to start, I encourage you to grab my free Creative Career Audit. This worksheet will walk you through a process to help you identify what's bringing you joy in your work and what really needs to go. You can head to my website at www.victoriahines.com or grab the direct link in the show notes below. Alrighty, back to the show. Key number 1, visualizations hold power. Imagine yourself in the triumph. So for this step, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and imagine yourself 1 year or even 5 years from now. If the sky was the limit, what would you want your life to look like? What opportunities are happening for you? Can you picture your home where you're living? Is it cold or hot? Who are the people in your life? What do you do when you first wake up in the morning? How do you spend your days? What fun things do you get to do? What lights you up? Do you maybe see your name printed somewhere that gives you joy at seeing it there? Now, I want you to zoom in even further into one extraordinary day. And today is one of those days you could only ever dream of. From the time you get up to the time you went to bed, what happens? The more concrete, the more flashes of imagery that you can paint in your brain of what you see a year to 5 years from now, that's power right there. And it can supercharge your vision. Key number 2, and this is the other power behind the vision, is give it a why. What is your motivation behind your vision? Why is this important to you? Without the why, your vision doesn't really have roots. Now, what's funny is there's probably already a why sitting there, but maybe you haven't quite put the why to words. Why is at the center of the what and the heart of your dream. It makes your vision have importance. And this why can be both for you as well as other people around you. Why is this vision important? Key number 3 is to create your vision. So I really want you to make your vision tangible. It's great. The first step you have to do is be able to picture it in your mind. And we're all creatives, we're really good at imagining something that doesn't already exist. But that third key step is to make it a little bit more physical, put it into the physical realm. So this could be a visual creation with Pinterest or Canva. I've done both of these before. It could also be good old fashioned poster board and magazine cutouts. Sit down with a bunch of magazines, a bunch of images, and create a board one day. Other possibility is to write it, which also works. If you're not into visual creation, that's okay. But write down what your vision is. Put pen to paper and make it tangible. Keep creating and finessing this until reading or viewing this vision really sparks a visceral reaction inside of you. When you take a step back and look at it, you feel something, it triggers something deep in your soul. That's when you know it's ready to go. Key number 4, share your vision with people you trust or total strangers. Now, there is something to be said for keeping some big plans close to your heart, of finessing them, making sure they're what that you want before you put them out into the world. But at some point, you have to be willing to share. And here's why. I, to this day, remember this story, and it baffles me and blows my mind, but I think it's the perfect example. So I worked at a film festival in Chicago, and I met this filmmaker. And he told this incredible story. Well, first of all, incredible filmmaker, but he told this story of how 3 weeks out from this full length feature film shoot, they lost their location. They were about to film a full length feature and they lost the location that they were going to film, the entire thing. And he was on an airplane at the time, or he might have found out right before. And he just started sharing with a stranger next to him and just chatting about what was going on in his life. Come to find out, the stranger next to him owned a piece of property outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and she offered it to them to film their entire full-length feature film. That is the power of putting your vision and dream out into the world. You never know what's going to come back to you in kind. Key number 5 is reframe your vision as an experiment. The reason I say this is because once you set the vision, you almost have to let it go. You can't control it anymore. Once you've put it out there, it has a life of its own. So by reframing it as an experiment, instead kind of saying, well, what if this comes true? What if I write a book next year? What if I buy a home? What if I get my art in a gallery next year? By putting what if in front of it, you almost dare yourself, but you also take the pressure off, because there are so many things about this vision that you cannot control the process to get there. You know, Frodo dreamed of getting to live again in a shire that was safe from evil. I'm going to pull a little Lord of the Rings reference into here. But to do that, he was going to have to take the ring to Mordor. He had no freaking idea that the journey to take that ring to Mordor, what that was going to entail. He could not have known, nor do you at this point. I'm going to leave you with a third quote in this episode. I'm really loving the quotes today. This one's from Jen Sincero from You Are a Badass. Your job is to know what you want, not how you're going to get there. Your job is to know what, not how. And that is the power of a vision. So just as a recap, real quick, the 5 keys to vision creation. Number 1, visualization holds power. So imagine yourself in the triumph. Number 2, supercharge your vision with a why. Number 3, create your vision, make it tangible. Number 4, share your vision with people you trust or complete strangers. And number 5, reframe your vision as an experiment. All right, creative, here is your one thing this week. You're going to create your vision for 2023. Yep, that's right. Whether you write it down or create a visual, cement into existence what you are wanting the new year to bring to you. What do you want to see happen in 2023? What is your vision for the year ahead? Keep this tangible vision somewhere where you can visit it often. This could be your desktop, near where you work. This could be before you go to bed every night. And last but not least, remember that your vision is an experiment. You have so little control over the timeline, but trust that consistent small actions will take you closer to that vision. If you're needing a little inspiration for your vision creation, I actually created one for next year. I kept it really simple this year and decided to create a 3-part vision in Canva and add a word to it. So I'll share that template below if you would like to use that to create your vision template for next year. With that being said, don't forget to join me next week for part 2 of this goal setting journey. We talked a lot about visions today, but next week we are going to dive into the nitty-grittiness of setting goals, which are the key elements that help your vision come to life. So don't forget to come back next week. Subscribe, rate, and review. So if you subscribe, you'll get this episode right into your inbox. And with that, until then, stay creative.